And we have some stories, some examples that we framed it in our outline today as giving patients hope again. Because, these numbers are gigantic. Obviously, they represent a lot of spend for employers. It also represents a lot of spend for the patient, the member. And so really highlighting the importance of engaging and intervening is really critical. Would you share the story? There was a home infusion example that we talked about in prep.
Yes, I'd be happy to. And this goes back to that point of each of these patients are individual people. And at this level of complexity, as you can imagine, there are so many ways that they can get derailed from getting the care that they need. In this particular instance, we were working on what we would call a site of care implementation. So one of the things about these very, very costly specialty drugs is if they're infused in a hospital infusion center, they often have quite a significant markup option. And if we can get them transitioned to the comfort and safety of their own home, we can typically save 80 to 90%, which in this case meant $850,000 a year ongoing for this medication. 99% of patients love this, right? Like, especially in the era of COVID, who wouldn't rather sit at home watching Netflix in their jammies and get hooked up to the IV than having to go and sit in a waiting room and then sit in an infusion center at the hospital? Not every drug can be moved to the home setting, but a lot can. And in this case, she was a perfect candidate. And this is a patient who had been already very well engaged in case management, working with a case management nurse from the plan administrator. And as soon as that case manager mentioned the possibility of moving to home infusion and was she interested, she stopped engaging in case management. And, there are protocols that case managers follow. And, it's one of those deals where it's like you get to 3 calls and they don't return. And it's like, well, we did 3 calls in a letter and we can't get her to respond. So there's really nothing we can do. And our team just kind of scratched their heads and said, well, this doesn't really make sense. This woman's been engaged for a long time in case management. Why all of a sudden would she not engage once we had this great opportunity? And so it is a kind of an interesting world we live in where people post a lot of information about themselves and even their health conditions on the internet. And of course, we would never go, below board and look for anything that's private. But when there's publicly available information, we can often use that to help us get a full picture of the person and what's going on in their life. And it turns out in this particular situation, the patient was a hoarder. And we put 2 and 2 together and said, aha, they don't want somebody coming to their home. They're probably a bit embarrassed about their situation. And so we then went back to the CFO of the employer and said, well, what if we put her in a hotel once a month? And I think his exact quote was something like, you can put her in the Ritz-Carlton if it's going to save us $850,000 a year. And so needless to say, that's what we did. We got home health set up in a hotel once a month. She had a wonderful weekend away once a month to just kind of chill and go to the spa and get her infusions. And the company saved over $800,000 a year. So we really consider that a win-win-win. Better care, better satisfaction by the patient, and definitely dramatically lower costs.
And a really great reminder that there are very real people who bring a lot of other history and needs and, fears to their care scenario that might not be the thing that we would automatically think of as a barrier.